Delicious Joe Channel here over at Subscribe Shop. Thanks to everyone over there, especially Vegan and others. So Amazon anime ban a secret plot to push AmeriFat propaganda? Yes. And I almost passed this article over, but somebody on Twitter talked about it and it finally got my attention because it says Amazon unleashes new wave of anime figure bans, claim they promote child exploitation. And if you hear that, you think, oh, it sounds pretty reasonable. You look at these images and think, oh, it's kind of weird, but you have to understand, I guess it's a Japanese thing. It's not my cup of tea, but you have to get it. And this image seems normal too, but the central image, you look at this and like, I don't know about that. But, it's Japan. They do things there. It just means different things to them over there. It's like for us, that's kind of the problem with a mixed culture. It's just like, it's so mixed that it's kind of the lowest common denominator has to rule because you don't have a standard anymore because it just becomes that the lowest standard is the mainstream standard. It's kind of the problem of having a commercial zone country instead of a nation. Anyway, but I almost passed this over because but then the title kind of somebody points out the problem with the title. And you think about, so Amazon banned some anime because it exploits kids or something. But stop and think about there for a second and let it sink in. You think about, like, so Amazon, these big international parasitical NGO companies, these globalist lizard types, Netflix, Disney, Warner Brothers, HBO, all that kind of stuff. Oh, so they're protecting the kids. Yeah. Say that aloud a few times. So these big parasite lizard companies are protecting. Wait a minute. Yeah, so the Netflix cuties companies are protecting kids. That should ring on the alarm bells because something is wrong with that narrative. Amazon caring about kids, and once you understand, what was that Sherlock Holmes guy? You look at the thing and he goes, "Oh, this does not appear to be their primary motive. Even financial does not appear to be their primary." What are you talking about? They're a company. Of course, they're after money. It's like, but they're not acting in a way to achieve that goal. They're acting in a way to achieve a goal of pushing propaganda, even if it costs them money. So something is like, there's a narrative, the face of that, and this sounds obvious, right? You're saying that they're lying to you? Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say, is that they put out this narrative, but it's not in accord with the way they act. They're saying one thing and doing another thing. It's a complicated way of saying they're just lying to you, to push their propaganda. But the thing is, a lot of people are high trust people. And if you're coming from a high trust, or what was a high trust society, it's not anymore, you kind of believe things at face value. It's like, that's why people in high trust societies are so naive, because they have no idea. They have to learn to harden up to be, you have to go to the level of lowest common denominator. If it's like there's one hustler in a society, then you have to, like, society drops down to accommodate that. It sucks. I mean, it destroys society, which is kind of the goal all along. So Amazon doesn't care about kids because Amazon is lizard people. They would sell kids cross-sex hormones and puberty blockers if they could. They would, if Amazon could have a surgery for kids, like a drive-through surgery. They absolutely would. These are demons. Don't for one instant think that Amazon cares about kids or humans at all, because no, I don't think these people are fully human. Something else is obviously going on, and some people on Twitter have pointed out that it might be a competition issue, but still, like, even if you're thinking about competition, you're still trapped in that matrix of finance as a motive instead of religious ideology of a motive. By that I mean globalism. Globalism is their religion. That's their motive. It's not financial. But their argument was it might be competition because Amazon wants to push their own anime and manga. And since America is all pushing Bolshevik propaganda now, and it all sucks, it's like you have to get rid of the competition because, like, American comics don't have a chance. Japanese comics haven't caught on they're catching on. They're growing every year, but they're not fully saturated yet. Like, American comics are still kind of holding on a little bit, but they're holding on because they have the names and the movies and the IPs. The movies are what's keeping the name in the public. If it wasn't for the movies, then no, like, American comics would be gone. But Amazon, Netflix, and Disney, HBO, Warner, and the rest, all these lizard people, their goals aren't money. They very much want to keep out something like the Japanese spirit, because Japan is still a nation, where America and most of the West now is just commercial zones run by these NGO, parasites. So they do not want a Japan to exist. That's why they want to. That's why they're trying to do the stuff they're trying to do to Japan now. So these globalist NGOs, their goal's not money. It's to reshape society to create a hell on earth. That is their religion. The problem is that if you have this competitor out there, this Japanese stuff that's selling this pure, fun, lighthearted alternative, where if you're buying a graphic novel for $20 here or there, it's like, oh, you'll just buy the Japanese stuff, and eventually you'll turn American kids on to Japanese stuff. It's like, well, that's a problem for these lizard companies, because Japanese stuff doesn't suck. It might be a little bit silly, and some of it might be a little bit risque, but it doesn't suck in the way that American stuff sucks, because they don't make diverse propaganda, because they're not Bolsheviks. They don't have anyone. They don't have a diversity and inclusion Frankfurt School, political commissar telling them this is how their art needs to be. Like, what was that article I did the other day about Stephen King had that quote about, I judge art on its merits, and then he got destroyed for it, and then came back and said, oh, no, I'm sorry, I was wrong. The thing I just said yesterday was wrong. I judge art according to the Frankfurt School diversity, inclusion, and equity scale. So are you saying that, if it's not judged on its merit, so what happens? So it's not judged on its merit, then the best doesn't come to the forefront? Yeah, that's what he's saying. And there was another guy who just came out and said something similar, but I can't remember his name right now. Anyway, diverse propaganda, yeah, that's American stuff. Japanese, they don't have to do all that kind of stuff, where every bad character is blonde-haired, blue-eyed, out of Aryan central casting. Gee, another story about the we'll call them Germans from 75 years ago. Gee, I can't help but notice that, or Captain, who's that black guy writing the Captain American stories? So you're in Kansas or something, and there's a group of all these blonde-haired people who are secretly running Kansas Underground, and they're I don't know, they're the true enemy of America. So you mean like the salt of the earth, the people who, Captain America has to destroy all these blonde-haired people, the German stock, the English stock, the Irish and Polish people, so the backbone of America, the people, farms and ranches, people who kind of made America function, the backbone. Those are the true evil of America, or so says Captain America. Like, this is just Russia level of propaganda from like circa 1950 to maybe early 1980s, and then it all kind of collapsed. That's not just a Captain America comic book. That's every other comic book. Is, oh, hey, there's a little blonde kid who's on the 4chans, and he's on Gab and Telegram, and he's got that free speech. Ms. Marvel needs to illegally enter his house and illegally arrest him. So what about his constitutional rights, due process, Fourth Amendment, Fifth Amendment kind of stuff, Sixth Amendment? Oh, yeah, we don't need it. He's blonde. He's not human. Non-humans don't get rights. Oh, what are you trying to tell us? This is stuff I remember over the past 5 years from American comics off the top of my head. That's how bad American comics, or Al Ewing's Immortal Hulk series, 1 to 50. I still remember issues 1 and issue 11. If you want to go look them up right now, you can see what I'm talking about. Just issue 1 and issue 11. It will make you, you're not going to pay for it. It will make you want to throw your tablet across the screen. It's so friggin' ridiculous. I have PTSD from how bad Immortal Hulk issue 11 was. There's a Pox Walks woman who's walking around in hell with Bruce Banner as the misshapen Hulk, and she's telling him about how American cities are being destroyed by fair-skinned European men who are ranting and raging and destroying American cities. It's in issue 11 of Mortal Hulk. I know you don't believe. I could go find it on readcomics.2, but it's just as insane as it sounds. Like, Al Ewing, I guess you must be in England. Maybe you should come to America for a few years, Mr. Ewing. It's your beliefs are insane. Your belief. It's guys who have PhDs in, I don't know, physics, who are actually tearing apart American cities. That's what Al Ewing believes in. I swear to God, it's just as crazy as it sounds. Anyway, Japanese stuff doesn't have all that kind of stuff, where every bad character is blonde-haired and blue-eyed, or the protagonist has all got to be obese, pox-walks, furry otherkin, who's marginalized, systemically oppressed, and disenfranchised. All these kind of Saul Alinsky, Frankfurt School hot words. We don't care about any of that kind of stuff. And the thing is, even when the SJWs are trying to preach to the choir, they don't care about that kind of stuff. They don't buy their own stuff. Every time, there's probably been about a dozen movies that have come out in the past 10 years that have, like the Charlie's Angels is a good example, or the Terminator X. So, oh God, those evil men didn't see that movies. Yeah, but what about the women? They don't have agency. They can't decide for themselves. Men have to tell them what movies to see. Now that's the real world, because in the real world, men mostly drag women to see movies. But Elizabeth Banks can't admit that kind of stuff. So the movies failed because women didn't see them. I mean, they saw The Notebook and they saw Titanic, and men weren't seeing that. Anyway, the SJWs can't even sell to other SJWs. The thing is, Japanese stuff has beautiful characters having fun. They don't have Bolshevik diverse nonsense. They don't need diversity. They want to sell their stories and give people what they want. American stuff doesn't sell. It's only kept alive because it's subsidized by the parent companies. These cat ladies and soy boys just endlessly trying to sell propaganda that just cannot connect with people. If it wasn't subsidized by the parent companies, the movie making aspect of the comic books, yeah, it would have disappeared a long time ago. It's pure Frankfurt School. And the thing is, like, you know, as I further I go down the rabbit hole, my love affair with comics has kind of fallen away. I will say the older stuff was decent to good, with some standouts. But even now, you can put on the They Live glasses, and you can go back to the '80s, and you can see some of the propaganda. Even it's stuff that like the Batman series, like so these gangs of Gotham City. This is not what gangs look like. And I realized that as an adult. I realized, oh shit, it was propaganda even back in the '80s. Like it was still a good comic because it was a really fictionalized setting. But even back then, you look at it, and you're like, and then you kind of look at the American comic book industry. And most of it was always just left wing propaganda. It was just they had dialed it back quite a bit, and it wasn't all like that. Some of it was based in nationalists, but a lot of it was just propaganda right from the start. And it kind of sucks to put on the glasses and go back and look at that stuff and go like, yeah, this is. I mean, even in like the comics in the '70s and '80s, you're like, oh, so there's a blonde mugger breaking into cars and another blonde mugger. It's like they were doing that in the '80s. You look back, it's like it was more mixed back then, but it just wasn't. It's like anything that's a lie is pushing a lie. Anything that's an overrepresentation that's not in accord with reality, well, that's also known as propaganda. It's like, yeah, comics were doing that for a very long time. Anyway, everyone in American comics is just fat, stupid, and ugly, and just giving lectures about stuff that nobody cares about pronouns, or whatever. Like is the current zeitgeist of the day. All that stuff is a fad. I know none of those kids are listening to this kind of stuff, but yeah, all the decisions you're making that are permanent decisions you're making right now, yeah, you're going to regret those decisions. You know, I don't know how long you're going to regret them because the self harm in the community is pretty fucking serious, and you would think, oh, that should be the issue. We should really work on I guess depression, anxiety, whatever is the underlying. No. We're just going to create this pharmaceutical industry out of thin air. Might have been too much for YouTube. And so all these people, you're just victimizing all these kids who like they're just kids who don't know any better. They've just been brainwashed by these parasite NGOs. It's like, we don't live in a nation. We live in a commercial zone controlled by these parasites. Like, yes, we do. American stuff is written by brainwashed midwits, soy people who are terrified to think for themselves. They're firmly on the Saul Alinsky plantation. And the stuff they write is ridiculous, so people end up buying the Japanese stuff. But Amazon has to take the wind out of their sails a little bit because if Japanese stuff starts taking over the culture, fundamentally it's anti-globalist. Japanese stuff works because it's not diverse. And if those ideas spread, then people will start to consider if perhaps it's something that they should do to start writing more tribally based stories, blood connected stories, nationalist stories that have been part of human storytelling for I don't know when they came up with writing, 20,000 years ago with the hieroglyphics or something. But oral tradition before that, like stories are based on tribal stories. The concept of the 1914, Bolshevik one Moses Mordecai Levy pushing his ideas of globalism, that kind of nonsense. It's like those are very recent inventions, and they're ridiculous. I mean, if it wasn't for censorship and deplatforming, you'd be able to destroy those ideas immediately. Anyway, so they start writing stories that aren't diverse, or make a story. If you wanted to make a story with just Irish people or European people or whatever you want, that's the point. To be able to have the freedom to make whatever you want. You go, we'll put an Indiegogo, Kickstarter, and we'll have the payment processors. Oh, no, we've been banned off all those because we're not making a diverse. Mike Miller with Lone Star tries to make a story about gangs in America, but because the gangs are not blonde-haired, blue-eyed guys, he couldn't get that thing crowdfunded. Like, that's insane. Yeah, you can tell the story, but you have to change the Latin characters to blonde-haired, blue-eyed characters. But that's not real. Yeah, we're not, like, welcome to life in an NGO. It's not, this is the dystopian future that William Gibson warned us about in Mona Lisa Overdrive and all his other books. Like, this is it. You're living in it now, where you're not a nation of we the people and you have representatives. It's Google and Facebook and Disney have more power over America than you and your representatives. Well, it's kind of time for somebody to fix that. Yeah. It's at the point where, but the thing is, you can't fix it. You'd have to like, you'd have to, you'd have to form political action committees or hiking clubs, whatever you want to call them. Anyway, so that's where Easy Comics Gate got started because the mainstream was so bad. Every story was globalist nonsense written by obese soy people. No offense to those. Galen Mark. That's a study. There's a study I read the other day where healthy, good-looking people are more confident and more right-wing. Which, if you look at the American comic book industry, it all kind of makes sense because the soy people who work in it now mostly look like trolls and goblins, or like Heather Antos has been in the news lately. She doesn't look like a troll, but I think she's a proud cat mom or something ridiculous like that. They're not invested in the past. They're not invested in the future because they don't have kids. They're not part of their tribe. They really believe in this globalist ideology. They have house cats. It's like you're supposed to have kids and take part in your tribe, and like you've just been brainwashed. Their whole lives have been brainwashed by globalist propaganda. They're not nationalists. They don't write stories that connect with people. People don't value diversity. That has been a lie for a long time. People are tribal. Diversity is all propaganda. It's a lie. It's always been a lie. People hate diversity. IRL people hate the other tribe because they have interests adverse to their interests. They want to be around their own people. And even to say that now is like, that's not politically correct. It's like, so reality. You're telling me reality is not politically correct. Why would American kids want to read American comics when anime and manga exist? And that's what Amazon is very well cognizant of. Amazon wants to have control of this narrative, and they know that American stuff is Bolshevik stuff, where Japanese stuff is nationalist stuff. So they have to make level the playing field as much as possible. Anyway, this might have been a bit much for YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe. See you guys all next episode.